Okay, joining us on the show, sports lawyer Desh Gaurav Sekhri, also joining us, senior editor of ESPNCricinfo, Sharda Ugra, and former India cricketer, World Cup winner in Kirti Azad. Desh, before I get into the discussion of the autonomy of the board, a quick word, because you're the legal voice on the show. Is there any sort of recourse available for the BCCI after this?
I don't think so, Nikhil. I've had a look at the order briefly. And it clearly talks about how every legal recourse, at least at the Supreme Court's level, has been dismissed or written off. So I think this is it.
Okay, let's now talk about the autonomy of the board, because that is what Anurag Thakur mentions. And I go across to Mr. Kirti Azad. Sir, I know you're one of those people who've been fighting against this so-called cozy club in the BCCI, but let's just look at it a bit practically. Don't you think, I mean, it's an attack on the BCCI autonomy as well? After all, it's something that's registered under the Societies Act, and now we have the judiciary actually deciding how the BCCI should function?
I think, Nikhil, that talk of being autonomous body is over. After all, public funds are being used. That is what the Honorable Supreme Court said. So Section 19(1) G, C or whatever they talk about the autonomy and the individual independence, it's not there anymore. It's simple as that. They have to be more clear, they have to be more straight, they have to be open. Malfeasance, the kind of problems that were being created in the board, all have come out. You have talked about it. I've been talking about it, that they are united alliance, united in corruption alliances for positions, and everything has come tumbling out of the cupboards. So these are very good recommendations. It's God gift to Indian sports. I must also add, before I give it back to you, is that I along with 27 Olympians have filed a writ petition that Lodha committee should be implemented on the all other national sports federations and Indian Olympic Association. So that is another beginning, which I suppose our case would come sometimes late January or beginning February. Right. So this is a landmark judgment and a fantastic job.
Right, but Mr. Azad, I'm just playing the devil's advocate. Isn't it just, again, a catch-22 situation? Let's just assume, we always blame a lot of other sports organizations, saying there's a lot of government interference. Let the organizations work independently. They don't function really well. In BCCI's case, we can't really say that, the game of cricket wasn't flourishing here. In that sense, isn't it an attack then on the way they were functioning in an independent manner, in an autonomous manner?
Let me take you on the larger issue, Nikhil. There were 34 countries in the world, which included the United States of America, England, France, Germany, Spain. All these countries told their respective national federations and associations that there were a few problems, that they had to sort it out. They had to make amendments as were recommended by Lodha committee here. They were recommended whichever suited their own country. Those recommendations were accepted by these countries, and I'm talking no less than United States of America, Germany and France and etc., other countries as well. So it was nothing wrong. I think it was mere defiance, and that was the problem that was going on, and they had crossed the limit, they had crossed the line which they shouldn't have. Had they accepted, I don't think so the Honorable Supreme Court had to really intervene into the affairs of the BCCI.
Okay, we'll get into that as well, and how the BCCI behaved. Did they score an own goal? But I go back to that first question that I raised. I'll go across to Sharda Ugra. Sharda, let's take a social issue. When there is any sort of interference, be it by the government or by the judiciary, we are very conscious about our rights in this country, the democracy that we live in. Why not have the same sort of standards for the BCCI as well? They were an autonomous body going about their job, and we've got the judiciary now actually dictating how they should be governing this game.
Nikhil, what you're doing is that you're making exactly the same argument that the BCCI made to the court and said, we are a private body, we should be allowed to function, and carry out our own activities. And the response to them was that you are a private body that's performing a public function, because you pick what is called an Indian team and send it out, and therefore there are certain standards that have to be answerable to, and so on. Right from the beginning, what I have said is that the BCCI's handling of this case was not very well done, wasn't very intelligently or thought through with any foresight, and they literally just responded in this particular manner, which is why this has happened. We are talking about almost 2.5 years ago. All that the BCCI had to do 2.5 years ago was tell the Bombay High Court, we're sorry, we made a mistake about appointing this panel to look at the Gurunath Mayappan case. and we wouldn't even be here. But the point is that they challenged everything that was put in front of them, and they came in with this argument of autonomy and so on. To be fair to the BCCI, as we always say, that they are self-sustaining financially, they don't take taxpayers' money, but as the court sees it, that they perform a public function, and therefore they are amenable to writ jurisdiction. This is what you and I have learnt over 3 years or so of listening to orders and instructions and observations by the court. So that is what has happened, and now things have come to this pass because there was no dialogue between the Lodha committee and the BCCI before the July judgment. So it's like they've literally put themselves in this situation.
Right. I'll take that question to Desh Gaurav. And Desh, why we're talking about this is it could set a dangerous precedent. It's all very well for the court to come and tell the BCCI which is the right way to function. But then we could have an aggrieved party tomorrow. Let's say a new set of administrators are there. We could again have an aggrieved party. Everyone then goes to the court, and then the court then eventually decides how something needs to be done. Isn't this a dangerous precedent that we're setting then? How does one put an end to it?
I agree with you, Nikhil. I think there's a challenge here that had they just removed the top brass and said that let's move towards a fully transparent, accountable election at the earliest, and just have a transitory team which will look into the implementation of the Lodha committee recommendations, I think that would be something which would be extremely viable. But reading the order, one gets the idea that they're setting up a committee of administrators who will then govern cricket. So it's basically replacing one setup with another one where you're imposing a group of people to oversee cricket. So yes, that is a very dangerous precedent, because then who is the person who decides who is the right group of people to govern a sport?
Well, that's the question that I'll take to Mr. Sunil Gavaskar now, who joins us on the show. Saibhai, thanks so much for joining us. He's joining us live now from an overseas location. I'm sure you've heard the order. Now, that's been the talking point in the last few hours here in India. And we're talking about, the court actually interfering in the autonomy of the BCCI. As we spoke about, there are good things about the BCCI, there are bad things about the BCCI. Firstly, let me ask you, what do you make of the judiciary actually deciding how a private body needs to function, even though they were discharging public functions?
Well, I think that was what the judiciary had to decide, that was it a public function, and therefore does it come under their ambit, and they've so decided that it does come. It is discharging a public function, so it does come under their ambit. Look, the judgment was given in July actually, and the Supreme Court had been waiting for compliance, and since there was no compliance, I think they had to come and take this step, because there's no compliance from the state associations. So while the BCCI might be saying that the top brass was saying that they were looking to implement it, if the state associations didn't give them the 3/4 okay, go ahead, then their hands were tied as well.